joining us for this week's Chalk Talk, sponsored by the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, is the head coach at Grand Rapids Catholic Central, TJ Merrman. Coach, thanks for joining us on Hangtime today.
You bet, Lorne. Thanks, and thanks, TJ. Thanks to you both for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, first off, I believe you guys are 22-1 now on the season. Your lone loss was to Flint Beecher back in early January. You've run off 17 straight since then. Talk about the game Monday night, third time I believe that you played Grand Rapids Christian this season. That's always tough. I don't care what the sport is to beat a team 3 times.
Yep. It was our second time playing.
Oh, it was only second? Okay, my bad.
Yeah, but we played Grand Rapids South Christian. A lot of people get those schools mixed up. They're in our conference, so we battled with them twice. But yeah, we opened up on December 10th against Grand Rapids Christian, and it was a great game when we played in the first round. They started off. I think they hit 6 of their first 8 3-pointers, and we were down 20 in the first half. And we had to really battle back and chip our way back into that, and ended up winning by, I think, 3 points. So, but it's a rivalry game. They're a very talented team. They beat undefeated Northview just 2 weeks ago on Northview's court. Like I said, they have a loaded roster, and their coaches do a really good job. So we knew it was going to be a battle coming into last night's game, and it really was for 2.5 quarters.
Right. TJ, what was your observations on what you saw Monday night?
Super tight game as I expected. I think it was 33-33 at the half. And I'm pretty sure what Fat didn't even score. I'm talking about Darrell Brooks, Fat, the standout sophomore for you. I don't think that he scored in the first half. But when about the 4-minute mark of the third quarter, he just turned it on. The rest of your guys turned it on. I think he wound up going on a 34-7 run, or whatever it was to end the game. But Fat was fantastic. His brother Jordan, headed to Ferris State, was phenomenal. I was thinking in my head, and watching, I was like Brooks and Dunn. I'm trying to get my radio, whatever I'm going to say and stuff like that. So I'm glad I get to turn back the clock to the 20th century and bring up some of those guys. The Oak Ridge boys and stuff. But yeah.
So how does a guy get a nickname Fat?
Yes.
I'm
curious as well.
Coach,
this question is asked all the time, and it's a real simple story, but a fun story. Is just he was a fat baby, and Fat is one of 4 brothers. Jordan, the oldest, and then 2 younger brothers. And they just said he always walked around. He constantly had a bottle in his mouth, and he was the fattest of all of the kids. So they called him Fat, and it stuck. He was on an unofficial visit 2 months ago over with Coach Howard at Michigan, and the first thing that Coach Howard did is walked right up to him and said, "Man, you got the best nickname in the state of Michigan." And,
right, exactly.
So anyway, it's but on top of that, it goes well. He's a unique kid. He's a one-of-a-kind leader and player, and I think that nickname fits him well.
Yeah, for sure. We're talking with Grand Rapids Catholic Central head coach TJ Merrman today on Hangtime. Hey, Coach, what's the biggest difference between last year's state championship team and this team as you prepare to take another run at it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is last year I think we were a little bit of an unknown quantity, and especially because of COVID and not being able to see and have big crowds at games. Won a state title last year, and I think just the opposite has happened. We've become a target for a lot of teams, and so we've had to adjust to knowing that we're going to get the best punch from every team, and that's just a completely different role. Our kids are. When you look at our team from last year to this year, when I watched Unity Christian film to prepare for last Friday's game against a great team, undefeated team, I watched last year's game. And I think the biggest difference that I noticed with our team is just their bodies. We're bigger, faster, and stronger because we returned the majority of our players from that team. So it's nice to see that type of progress in our players. And I think, TJ saw it last night in just our speed and quickness on the court.
Yeah. Absolutely. And TJ, Jack Karazinski is a Mr. Basketball candidate.
Yep.
Your thoughts on how he's developed over the years as you've watched?
I love Jack's versatility. I love how hard he plays. There's some things that when I'm evaluating players that just don't go away. Like if a player plays hard, he's going to play hard all the time. He just finds ways to produce. I think that he did a great job on Jaden Owinga, the big sophomore from Grand Rapids Christian. He was in foul trouble. I think he had 3 fouls in the first half. But Karazinski was the obvious senior, and Owinga was the obvious sophomore. And it was like one of those things like, hey, I'm bigger, I'm stronger than you, and I'm out here to kick your butt, and I'm going to go win a state championship. Now I think Owinga will probably develop into that player, as he gets older, junior and senior and stuff like that. But how Karazinski is just mentally prepared, like he's just channeled in. I'm not sure, like how many Mountain Dews or Monsters or whatever he's drinking, before the games and stuff like that. But yeah, he just brings it, and he's got he plays like he's on a mission, and he lets the refs know it. He lets the other team know it and stuff like that. But he's definitely focused on the task at hand, and that's winning. And I think that he really sets the tone as far as having a winning culture.
Yeah, talk about his leadership, Coach.
Yeah, that's TJ hit it on the head. He's, when we look at all the 5 on the ballot for Mr. Basketball, they're all great players. But I think the one thing that Jack Karazinski brings to the table, he might not have the stats of the other 4. He's averaging 17.7 rebounds a game, but he makes winning play after winning play, and that's what he's done since he's been at CC. With the Owinga kids, he had 3 fouls in the first half last night, and he picked up his 4th. Jack stepped in and took a big charge last night for him to pick up his 4th. And when he was out of the game, we went on a big run. And he had, I think, 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists last night. We posted him up. We play him on the wing. He ran the point for us on a few possessions. When he rebounds, he's so dynamic as a player. And his head coach from William & Mary flew in last night to watch him play, and just loved everything about him last night. So on top of that, he's a high academic kid, and he's a guy that we want all of our younger underclassmen following. He's that type of kid.
Yeah, well, I'm glad he submitted his application for the DAC Athlete of the Year. We'll find out if he gets nominated, but certainly a kid that needed to be in the mix, no doubt about it. And, Coach, how long have you been at Grand Rapids Catholic Central now?
This is my 9th year right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about, how you came up in the game, a little bit about your background, and, who were some of maybe the mentors that guided you along in your journey?
Yeah, so I've been at Catholic. This is my 9th year. Prior to Catholic, I was at Grand Valley State for a year as an assistant coach on staff. Prior to that, I coached some high school basketball and football coming out of college. I went to Central Michigan from 2000 through 04. So I played for Jay Smith up there, and with Chris Kamen and Mike Mansell and Whitney Robinson and J.R. Wallace. And we had a really good team when I was up at CMU, full of a bunch of great guys. We were still talking and texting this morning after games. So anyway, I think most of us from that CMU team, we made a big run for us anyway into the second round of the NCAA tournament that year. And I think most of us are still in basketball in some capacity and have kids coming up. Mike Mansell's 2 sons are really good players. Whitney Robinson's son is at Pontiac Notre Dame playing for him. And my nephew is a sophomore playing for us at Catholic too. So we have our family, and there's a lot of connections, but I think that grew at Central Michigan. Prior to Central Michigan, I played at Coopersville, and my dad was a 30-year football Hall of Fame coach there. And so sports and growing up around the football stadium. My dad passed away 7 years ago after a real quick battle with cancer, and the football field at our high school, a small little country town, is named after him. And I think just growing up in that environment set the stage for what I'm doing right now. So. But I really enjoy being here. We have great kids. They're excellent students. I think last year we were academic all-state on top of winning a state title. But coaching influences, obviously, Jay Smith playing for him at Central Michigan. But I think all of his assistants that were there during my time, I'm still pretty close with. One was Dave Grube. He used to be the head coach at Kent State before he came to CMU. And he's a big-time motion offense guy. And he drove up from Ohio last week, 5-hour drive with his wife, Becky, just to watch our team play in a playoff game, which I thought was sweet. I haven't seen him in a few years. But other guys, too. Cornell Mann was one of our assistants, and he's now at Missouri, and, we still stay in touch. Coach Montgomery, who's back at Michigan State right now. Monty was at CMU when I was there as well. So Jeff Smith, who's at Oakland, all of those guys were on staff when I was at Central, and we still stay in touch. So
well, interestingly enough, when I was doing play-by-play for Oakland in 05 through 07, Jeff Smith was there, even though he's there now. He left, and then he came back. But he was at Oakland University. When we went to L.A. to play UCLA was number one in the country. Can't be like books these crazy games, for Oakland to play. But it was great for the whole team to get to go to Los Angeles in December, so it was awesome. Chris Kaman was on the Clippers, and he hosted, the team to come in and see the Staples Center and go behind the scenes and do all that stuff. And that was, he was obviously just proud that, Michigan team was coming to L.A. to play. And he was really just a wonderful guy, man. Just really cool.
Yeah, a 5-minute mile, I believe.
Yes.
Was it below a 5-minute mile when first time you guys ran?
I think it was a 5-minute mile, and I don't even know if he tied his shoes. That's how Chris was. He would roll in. He was my players don't believe me when I told that about him, but he is the fastest, most athletic 7-footer that I've ever been around. Yeah. And a great guy. He married Emily to Villamonte, a soccer player from our time up at CMU, and my wife Jackie was on the track and field team up there at the same time. So there were a bunch of us athletes that all hung out, and and Chris is just a great guy. His brother Mike coaches at Tri-Unity Christian. So last year in the semifinals, they were playing in the semifinals against Douglas over here at Van Andel, and
that's right.
We got to reunite with the Caymans there too. So great family though, really cool.
That's
family.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Coach, BCAM has introduced and officially launched the One Team campaign that they did this season, and this is an effort to promote unity among team schools and the communities. And this is, one of the reasons we wanted to partner up again, so we could kind of help champion that effort. And they've encouraged things like teams standing together at anthems, looking to promote that we all are one team. I know you're a big BCAM guy and always looking to emphasize unity. Did you guys do anything in particular this season? And just in general, what are your thoughts overall on what BCAM's trying to do with this one team campaign?
Yeah, I'm a proud member of BCAM. I appreciate everything they do for the state of Michigan and all of our players and all of us coaches as well, from training to the coaching clinics that they host to the award ceremonies that they have. Everything is first class with BCAM, and so we definitely really appreciate that. And the whole one team idea is something that we try to embrace every year. I know that's their code words for this year, but we share film with anybody that needs film. We open up our practices. We have, when Pontiac Notre Dame comes over to scrimmage our team this past year, we have a big dinner where the two teams have dinner together afterwards. Nice. At our events. We hosted an event at Van Andel Arena this year, and we had dinner for both teams after to sit together and hang out. And I know that Mike did the same thing at Grand Blanc this year. And if we're to win a game after a game in the state playoffs, most coaches that we've talked to are like, "Hey, go win the whole thing." And if we were to lose, I would say the same thing to them. Go run the table. So anyway, I think being a former high school coach a former high school player, a college player that was able to have his college paid for, anytime you can promote other players and help promote other programs in our state to have that similar type of experience, we got to do it. That's what we're here for. That's what TJ does for a job, and you guys do the same thing as state champs, help them promote. So. That's
right. That's what we're here. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that the fraternity, the sorority, the camaraderie that basketball brings. And I always tell kids, I was like, you never know who's watching in the stands. And even though, you might not recognize anybody or anything like that, there's somebody that knows somebody a lot oftentimes. And last night when I walked into the game at Forest Hills Eastern, and I'm happy that I got there like right after a halftime of the Sparta Whitehall game, because there was a huge line. So I can imagine all the people that were there that might have been there, that know other people, they can reach out to, Stan Heather at Eastern Michigan or
Yep.
I'm just trying to remember guys that are still here because, obviously we've lost a couple of guys and stuff like that, because of March. But, if somebody can reach out to Campy or they can reach out to whomever, I think that's one of the things that kids need to understand, that, hey, you got fans out here that have your back and they want to see you succeed. And I think that's one thing that we can all bring to the table. And I think that and it's great, let's say this, it's great that when kids realize, that we do have their back. I just think a lot of times they're reading social media and they're seeing so much of the negativity rather than understanding and, let's say this, having faith that, that there are a lot of people out there that have their backs and want to see them succeed. And, hats off to you and hats off to the B-Camp community and everybody involved.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yes. I got a few more for you.
Sure.
Number one, and I'm always fascinated by this because, state champs in the fall is going to be celebrating our 20th year. So, so we're really excited about that. And we've had an opportunity to see not just programs, not just teams, but schools in general really become these athletic powerhouses. And what we've seen over the last decade happening at Grand Rapids Catholic Central, I mean, anyone who's a football fan knows that, the Cougars are just the team to beat, year in, year out now, and they'll take on all comers. You guys will play anybody as well, and you've, really now over the last several years, minus the COVID year, which interrupted everything, but has really put together a team that those kids, your kids, believe that every year they're going to win every time they step on the court, and more often than not, we're going to see you at the Breslin Center.
Yeah, it's a special environment to be in, and I'll give credit to our athletic director Trevor Hinshaw.
Yeah.
When I came in to meet with him, when I came in to meet with him, that was our first conversation that we had was how do we make this the best program in the state, and he's helped out tremendously from that. He's a former basketball guy. He coached up at Lake State, and so he gets basketball. And, he understood the importance of making sure that we had gym time for camps and that we had the month of June booked for all of our different team camps that we go to. But I think it's mainly just, providing opportunities for our players to grow and improve. And then obviously, I think one thing that we've done at CC, both football and basketball, is we put players at the next level. So I think next year, when our three seniors, we have Jordan Brooks is going to Ferris State, Jack Kierzinski who's going to William & Mary, and Luca Ressler is going to Kelvin University to play. When those three are playing next year, we will have 10 college players playing at the same time who are graduates of our high school. And I think that, giving them opportunities in June, taking a bus, my coaches and I are driving a bus down to Xavier. And the cool thing about it, too, talk about that brotherhood of basketballhood, is when we go down there, we see Juan from Ferndale and his team, and he's down there driving a bus to get Ferndale down there, too. But we've given them those opportunities to play on those types of stages in June, on top of what B-Camp did last year with the camp that was at Grand Valley State that helped our guys receive about 15 different offers from schools. So I think that's a big, important piece for the culture of our school, our football and basketball program, is just, players know that they're going to have to put in extra time, but with that extra time comes opportunities for scholarships and some pretty cool situations. They're going to get to travel the world playing a sport they love for 4 years in college.
Right. I remember you guys were in. Maybe you guys were headed to Cincinnati. I know that I was in Fort Wayne. I forgot if you were at Purdue, Fort Wayne. But then I was like, well, I'm headed down there too. So, but I love June team camps, and not only that, it really does allow your guys, to be seen that much further. And what you've done with your program. I remember, years ago, when we knew each other from working together with Michigan Elite 25. But then, you wound up having this junior that walked in, and it was like, hey, expect some phone calls, and then the next thing, it was just like, hey, man, like, who are you? All these guys and stuff like that. You had Bino from Maryland giving you a call. I know he's over at DePaul, but then you also had Michigan and Michigan State, and a bunch of other schools that are reaching out to you about the Marcus Bingham, now the all-time leading shot blocker at Michigan State history. And I think that just what you guys have been able to do as far as develop players, making sure that that they realize that, hey, if you want to be in this, you got to take care of your academics. Not saying that Marcus was kind of on the cusp of where he was going to be, as far as his future in college. But what you guys have done for him is, as well as other players, has been phenomenal. And we were talking right before the podcast. I mean, you've got Kaden Brown. I mean, you got a lot of guys. You mentioned your 3 seniors, but then the cupboard's not dry after next year. I mean, you've got Kaden Brown, who is one of the best scorers, shooters in the state, but I don't think that out surpasses a 4.2 GPA, which is bringing in a lot of calls from the Ivy Leagues. And I think that that's just as important, what they're doing after the ball stops bouncing for what you guys are doing and stuff like that. And, hats off to you guys. And, it's been phenomenal. What was it like the first time you really started getting a lot of calls from college coaches? And I know that's kind of like a regular day thing for you, Mr. Big Time.
It's become a regular day thing because of our players, and we take them at all times. But Lorne, too, I do have to tell you, in the earlier stages too, when I'm just trying to get to know more college coaches and build those connections. TJ was one guy that I reached out to for numbers all the time. I'm like, hey, you got a guy, you got a coach at Illinois State. Like, I think it might be a good fit for this kid, and I'd like to text him film. And so, TJ, a shout out to you, because I appreciate. I mean, you've given me at least 50 numbers in the past 4 years, so I appreciate
Glad
that.
To help.
But it's been pretty cool. You got to find, even with all the offers, they got to find one school that they love and that loves them. And then, it's been special coaching a kid like Kaden Brown and the rest of our guys too. KK is going to play for free and get his college for free here coming up shortly, but. We also have another senior on our team right now, Ben English, who's also a 4.1 student who is looking to go be a student manager. Last year, one of our senior captains on our state title team, who didn't see the court a lot because of how talented that team was, is working for Juwan Howard and the Michigan staff right now as a student manager too. So it's just really cool to see all of these opportunities. Jordan's getting his education paid for. Fat is, Jack is, Luca is. We have Nate Van Timmeren, who's at Toledo right now for a football visit. He'll be back this afternoon for practice. My nephew, Carter, has been hearing from some schools as well. So it's a good thing to have, and it's special for us to have upperclassmen like a Kaden Brown with a 4.2 for these underclassmen to look up to and say, like, hey, he's not slouching in any area of his life, and he's getting it done in the classroom and off. And I think that was the biggest thing when Marcus came to us is, we first looked at his transcript and he had a 1.0, and our principal didn't admit him when he first tried to enter, and then later they did after he took a couple summer classes and increased his GPA, but he had to prove that he wanted to be here. Then when he actually when he enrolled and we met the kid, he started doing homework on his own, and he had never done that. His mom called me after like maybe 2 weeks of his first 2 weeks at Catholic Central, and she was crying. She was like, man, my kid's coming home and doing homework at the table. And again, to Marcus's credit, he had never had to do that. He didn't know that college was an option for him. And then you grow 6 inches in a year, and things change quite quickly. But more props to him. My son and I, for his senior night, were able to be there. Marcus asked us to go down on the court with him at Michigan State, and we've been able to experience some special moments because of special young men in our program.
All right. That's awesome.
Making education cool.
Yes.
Making smart cool.
Yeah, we'll take some of those athletes here at Lawrence Tech too. Don't forget about us down here, man.
We do. We had one of my students is playing lacrosse down there right now too.
Okay,
so.
Good. Okay,
Yep.
All right, good. Hey, before we let you go, just 2 more real quick. You've got a team coming out of the West Michigan Conference, Whitehall next in the regional championship. They've won 13 of their last 14. What do you know about the Eagles?
Yeah, well, they're an extremely physical team, and so that's something that we're going to have to prepare for. It's a quick turnaround. We don't ever get in the habit of watching games before we play an opponent, assuming that we were going to beat Grand Rapids Christian. Like that's just not how we roll. So we prepare for Grand Rapids Christian, and then today is going to be the first day outside of watching them play live. That our coaches have been breaking down film, but this will be the first time that we introduce film in our game plan to our guys. But I think a big component is going to be keeping them off the offensive glass. Have an extremely long lineup, and we're quick and fast and athletic. But we lost a Gabe Quillen, our 6'9" kid from last year, to Hope College. He's playing there now, so we don't really have that big rebounding presence in the paint. So it's got to be a collective effort. So that's been our focus the last couple of weeks. Unity Christian, we were able to win the rebounding battle against one of the best rebounding teams in the state, and TJ saw us last night. We're really fast in transition when we pressure and when we rebound. And because with the 5 guys that we start and our first couple guys off the bench, not one of those guys outlets the ball. It's all, if they rebound, we're running. So that's going to be item number one is being able to match their physicality and being able to rebound with them.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that. Last question. We've been doing this poll all season, and it's on the shot clock. Your thoughts on instituting the shot clock into the high school game?
I would absolutely love it. I would love it. I heard at the BCAM clinic this year, they talked about a couple different wrinkles for next year's season as possibilities. One was, I think, playing 22 games in the season, and I think that's needed.
Yes.
I think that has to happen. We switched conferences 2 years ago, and our conference gained another team, so we lost 2 more games. And I just think right now we have 14 games. This year we were able to schedule Grand Blanc and Beecher and UD Jesuit, so we were able to schedule some good schools. But it would be so nice, and it would really help with our kids' recruiting if we could have 2 more non-conference games.
Yeah.
So I think that has to happen. I would rather have, if we had to choose between one or the other, I'd rather have 22 games before a shot clock next year. But if they're giving out presents, I would take the shot clock at any time. It's just I saw it in state tournament games I watched last year. I watched teams hold the ball at the top of the court for 2.5 minutes. And I don't care up or down if it's unless it's under 30 seconds, we're not holding the ball against anybody we play, whether we're up or down. I just more of a purist, and I believe that's how the game should be played. And also when we're looking at what kids are doing at the next level in college,
exactly.
There's a shot clock. Let's prepare them right now. That's what we're trying to do. So, what do you guys think? You both on board with that?
I would love 22 games.
Yes.
And it just frees up so much. Greatly appreciate you coming down to the Motor City Roundball Classic last year, I guess it was last year, but earlier this season to play UD Jesuit. And I also think that a shot clock, maybe not so much during the regular season do we see how much it's needed, but definitely during the playoffs. I know that last night, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, they wound up beating North Farmington, but wound up holding the ball for quite a while. I know that, 2 years ago, or last season, I'm going to bring up your foe, also a good friend of yours, Juan Rickman, when you played Ferndale. Their quarterfinal game, they wound up playing Croswell-Lexington, and I believe that was a double overtime game. But there was a lot of, hey, I get a lead and I'm going to hold the ball. And at the end of the day, they're fans that are there. It's entertainment. It's entertainment, which winds up, spreading out to scholarships and having, affecting a lot of lives and stuff like that, in a positive way. And I think that a shot clock would affect a lot of fans' lives in a positive way. So
and
that's my 2 thoughts.
Make you a better player too. So, especially on defense. So, hey, Coach Meerman, hey, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for coming on Hangtime. We really appreciate it. Good luck, and hopefully we're going to see you at the Breslin next week.
Yep. One game at a time. But again, thank you to both of you. Thank you for all you do for basketball in the state of Michigan, for all sports in the state of Michigan, but specifically from a hoops coach. I appreciate you, and know that our program does too.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.